Hello and welcome to this instalment of Talkin Trim. I'm Jonathon Skinner and today we are looking at the trim panel and capping upholstery kit for the Triumph TR2 model. So this video here is going to detail what we commonly refer to as a trim panel kit for the Triumph TR2, which basically consists of all the main interior cockpit cabin panels that you need to retrim your car. So for example, the door panels, the wheel arch quarter panels, and the rear bulkhead panel. And then it has materials for recovering the dashboard and the cappings, so the dashtop scuttle cappings, the door top cappings, quarter elbow cappings, and the rear tonneau cappings. Also includes the draft excluders, the door pulls, and the wheel arch covers. So it's a mix of basically fully trimmed up items, then pre-cut and sewn where applicable items for recovering either onto the bodywork of the car or to original capping units. Also featured in this video are some of the capping units. So we've got a mix of original cappings, but also the aftermarket options that are available as well, scattered around the video so you can see the door top cappings there. These are the quarter elbow cappings. These are the rear tonneau cappings here, which are all aftermarket versions. Then at the front there, we've got a dashtop scuttle capping, which is actually an original panel just for the sake of this video. So all of those cappings are available in the aftermarket, apart from the dashtop scuttle capping, which I'll go into when I get to that part of the video. And with those cappings, obviously, we supply materials as part of the trim panel kit to recover your originals. But if you wanted, we can supply untrimmed replacement cappings as such. Or if you wanted, we can supply them fully trimmed up, and the fully trimmed up option comes as two options basically. We can either use aftermarket ones, or if you want to send us your originals, then of course we can retrim those, assuming they're in good enough condition. On that note, worth checking links at the end of this video. I've got several videos on the YouTube channel detailing cappings, both originals and fully trimmed up versions that we can offer, so it's worth checking those out because they are quite frustratingly hard items to trim, but we are doing more and more of them because people want to make sure that everything looks good when it's in the car. So be sure to check those videos out along with lots of other videos for anything related to your TR2 restoration. So that's effectively what's in this video. A couple other things that we'll touch on as well is the glove box there, which is sold outside of the scope of the trim panel kit, but you may wish to consider at the same time. And I think that's about it in terms of the basic overview. Now, it's worth noting that this particular kit is an upgrade kit, so it's a full leather kit. Absolutely everything that you see in the material here has been done in leather, and it's been done in our smooth finish leather. We can offer two grains of leather. You've either got smooth, which is this, or grained, which has a heavier grain to it. See our website, materials and colours library, for more information on that. And for most colours, we can offer both of those finishes of leather. Smooth is a bit more expensive than grain, so just bear that in mind. Now, when it comes to the actual trim panel kit, it's worth noting we can offer a 3-tier option in terms of materials. So at one end of the scale, you've got everything in vinyl. So literally all of the trim panels, wheel arches, dash cappings, etc., they would all be made in vinyl for you. The other end of the scale is full leather, which is what this is, which means everything's in leather. Then the middle ground option is what we refer to as vinyl plus 7-piece leather. And it basically means that everything in the kit is vinyl, apart from 7 pieces, which are, let me get to the front, the dashtop scuttle capping. So this curved piece here, which gets trimmed onto this metal scuttle capping, which effectively goes at the front of the car here, left to right. So that's one. Then you had a pair of door tops, 2, 3, then the pair of quarter elbow cappings, 4, 5, and then you had the sewn door pulls, 6, 7. So everything else would be vinyl, but those 7 pieces would be leather. In terms of what's left from the factory originally, quite a few TR2s left with vinyl trim, or rather vinide leather cloth as they actually used back then. Vinyl's the often superseded material these days, which we can offer if you want, but most people just go for vinyl. It's effectively the same. But then a decent amount of the cars left with that vinyl plus 7-piece leather option from the factory, and it generally went hand in hand. So if you went for the vinyl plus 7-piece leather cappings, you would get the seats leather faced, i.e. the bits that touch your body would be leather, but the backs and the surrounds would be vinyl. They tended to go hand in hand on that one. So that's generally the way people go, but obviously completely up to you which way you want to go. But we're more than happy to help and guide you if you want our input on that one. But this is the upgrade option. This is a full leather kit. Now it's worth noting with the trim panel kit, it does work out cheaper, more economical to buy as a kit, but we can supply the parts individually, or at least semi-individually. When we supply parts individually, the door panels, for example, are sold as a pair, so we tend to sell things in car sets. So they'll be sold as a pair, same with the wheel arches and the quarter panels, etc. Whereas the rear bulkhead panel, for example, is a singular unit. You only need one for the car. So we can sell them individually or in part kits. So see our website for details on that. But generally, we recommend that you get it as a trim panel kit. One, it works out cheaper. Two, it means that everything in the kit is going to be cut from the exact same batch of material there. Therefore, everything is going to match. So just bear that in mind. But this kit, like I say, has been done as an upgrade option. It's going over to a customer over in America. It's a left-hand drive, as you can see from the cutaway there for the steering wheel. Yeah, let's dive on in and have a look. So just to refresh you on the 7-piece leather thing with elements of looking into a book here. So you've got 1, which is the dashtop scuttle capping. Then 2 and 3 are the door top cappings. 4 and 5 are the quarter elbow cappings, just the sort of dog legs they sometimes get referred to at the top of the doors. There we are, perfect. Those there on each side. And then the actual door pulls themselves, which are these cords here. It says 7-piece levers. Anyway, let's start at the front of the car. So, like I say, you've got the dashtop scuttle capping. So you get pre-cut material for retrimming this aluminium capping. Now, unlike the other cappings, these aren't available in the aftermarket. We are hoping to tool up for this, so do watch this space, but currently not available, so you would have to reuse your original one. This is an original one that we've got on site here. But you get the material pre-cut for retrimming those. Obviously, if you wanted to send us your original one, we can retrim it for you. And like I say, do check out videos at the end of this one for me showcasing some of the items that we trimmed for people recently, of those items there. So yeah, you get pre-cut material. We actually skive it down, which skiving is the process of thinning leather down. So we're lucky enough that we have our own on-site leather skiving machine. I believe we're the only restoration company within this specific industry that has our own one on site. And so we do skive down materials as applicable, basically, so we know which ones benefit from skiving down, and we do it as standard in our kit. So that dashtop scuttle capping is skived down, so it's thinned down, which allows you to, doesn't make trimming easier, it makes it easier to get a better finish. Doesn't make the actual process any easier. That's basically that there, which, like I say, is that piece there. You then get a 3-piece kit for the dash fascia. So you get the main piece, which is obviously the panel that goes from left to right. It gets a cutaway on the driver's side for the steering wheel, which gets top stitched, and you can pull that round and in there, and it gets a nice finish on it. And then you get pre-cut material for the instrument panel in the middle there, and pre-cut material for the glove box lid there. Both of those pieces are also skived down to make it a bit more pliable during the fitment process. Again, I have done a video showcasing one of these fully trimmed up, so be sure to check that out. But effectively, pretty straightforward. Is that fascia there, then the instrument panel there, and the glove box lid there. While we're on the subject of the glove boxes are sold outside the scope of the trim panel kit, but we can offer them. We do recommend that you get them at the same time. So this is the glove box for this particular order here. It's a left-hand drive. It is slightly different between left-hand drive and right-hand drives. And we can offer a couple of different options of material on those. Most of them we trim in the vinyl material to match your main trim vinyl. But if you're going for leather, what we tend to recommend is using moquette, which is a very premium wool-based material. It's what Jaguar use for all of their E-types on the back of their seats and whatnot. And what we tend to do is try and match that up in terms of what you're using for your door pockets. So as standard for full leather kits, we tend to revert to moquette, for the door pockets because it's a very premium material, so it goes hand in hand with leather, and therefore we'll do the door pockets in moquette. And if you're getting a glove box at the same time, we would match them up so you get coherency throughout the car. So that is the left-hand drive glove box. It's millboard, cut on our in-house CNC machine, riveted and lined with whatever material, but in this case moquette, but like I say, not part of the trim panel kit. So that's effectively the dash area sorted. Now I'll carry on round the circumference of the car, so I'll do the cappings first, and then we'll come back to the main trim panels. So next up, we got the door top capping materials. So as part of the trim panel kit, you get the materials pre-cut, so they're 2 rectangles, as you can see. Again, skive down if they're in leather. And then if you want, obviously we can supply aftermarket door top cappings. Now, like I say, do see the other video at the end of this one for more details on that, because the cappings in the aftermarket are standardized for the TR2s, the TR3s and TR3As, but of course originally they were not the same throughout, but you can get them to work, so worth checking that out, because I do go into a lot more detail, which I won't bother doing in this video. So that's the material for the door top cappings, and obviously the left and right actual cappings themselves you can buy either like that, or we can supply them fully trimmed up for you, see the other video, or if you want, send us your original ones and we'll trim those up for you. In addition to the door top cappings, you may also wish to require getting some of this rubber tubing that literally goes on the top there, and that's what gets wrapped around, the material gets wrapped around to effectively create the door top capping there. Again, the other video linked at the end of this one goes into a lot more detail on that. So that's effectively the excuse me, the door top cappings. Then you get the quarter elbow cappings. So let me just reposition this one. This side's a bit better as I've laid everything face up. So door top cappings, sorry, the quarter elbow cappings, often referred to as dog legs. They literally go up the side of the wheel arch quarter panel here, just behind the door. So it's this panel here. On the other page, it showed it very nicely. These here. So again, pre-cut material, skive down, and same principle again with the as the door top cappings. We can supply aftermarket fiberglass ones, either untrimmed or fully trimmed, or you can send us your original ones and we can trim them up for you. So that's the material for those. And then finally, you get 3 pieces of material for the rear tonneau cappings. So left, right, which are obviously mirror images, but it's just a rectangle, and then the center there. And again, in leather, they would be skived down. Now, obviously, for the majority of the kits that left the factory, these pieces here would actually be in vinyl. They get covered up by the hood frame stick cover when everything's said and done in the car, whereas the door top cappings and the quarter elbow cappings were leather as standard from the factory for a lot of cars. These bits were pretty much always vinyl, unless it was a special order from the factory. So yeah, 3 pieces of leather, or material rather, pre-cut, skived down if it is leather, and then same again, we can offer aftermarket aluminium replacement cappings if you wish. And these are often, whereas the quarter elbow cappings and door top cappings and dash top scuttle cappings are often reusable, they often stand the test of time, these tend to be very warped and out of shape, especially the centre back one here. But we produce these, and these are aluminium as per original spec, whereas the other parts have had the materials changed over the years. These ones here remain true to the aluminium, and so we sell these by the absolute bucket load. So by all means, if you need replacement ones, let us know, and like I say, we can of course supply them fully trimmed up if you want. So that's effectively the surround cappings covered. If we then make our way back, let me just reference those rear tonneau cappings if I can. No, as I mentioned earlier, they are covered up. Yeah, so hood frame's covering it up at the back there. Hood frame cover rather. Yeah, we're not going to get them. Nope, afraid not. But yeah, they're at the back of the car. Right, so going back to the main interior trim panels. So down in the footwells, you get what we refer to as the A-post hockey stick panels. We call them hockey sticks for the obvious reason. They look like hockey sticks. And they're right down in the A-post footwell area there. They're actually That's a draft excluder. You can't, it's attached to the draft excluder. Can't really see them in these pictures here, but they go, you can see it follows the curvature of the door there. And actually they get effectively placed on top of the carpet piece that sits in that footwell area. Anyway, they are hardboard, cut on our in-house CNC machine. They have pilot fixing holes, which are just covered up, but you can just about make them out. Trimmed all the way around. You get a pair of them. So they're the hockey sticks, as we refer to them. You then get draft excluders, which for the TR2s and the TR3s were material trimmed around the rubber core. Unlike the TR3As, which were the kind of fuzzy, furry, moquette style material Furflex, the TR2s and TR3s used effectively vinyl for them. And you get 4 of them. So you get a pair of big ones like that, which go on the door. Then you get a pair of the small ones here, which go on the B-post section there. And you can literally see, so the long one here goes up and round. Now, it's worth noting, we do these slightly differently to the way they were done originally. We've improved them, or so we think we have. Originally, they were effectively material folded over and turned round and stapled quite basically. Didn't look particularly tidy. Whereas what we do is we top stitch them and seal the ends up to make it look neater. And that's why we've done them for years to good effect. So you get those 4 pieces. And like I say, you get a pair in the front, which follow the curvature around that door section there. And then I don't think we're going to be seeing the one in the back. Yeah, kind of. Just on the door slam area there. So effectively it would sit underneath this quarter panel edge here and effectively would butt up to there. Obviously the flange is completely lost. That's what's trimmed onto the car or the panel. So you get a set of 4 of the draft excluders there. Then let's go on to the door pulls briefly before the door panels. So you get a pair of door pulls. Again, the TR2s and the TR3s shared the same door pulls, which are these spec here. They're effectively a leather cord inside here. Then they're sewn. They have loose ends at the either end to allow for the fixings, which we do not supply. We can guide you on which ones to use if you have lost your originals. But yeah, they're pre-sewn covers basically. And on the TR2s and TR3s, they were situated on the outside of the door. So they went to the top of the door, and then to the back of the door there, and you would literally slide that across and it would release the door mechanism. For the TR3As, they switched to a cord. Yeah, that's a good photo of the one that we're talking about here. Whereas the TR3As, you can it's a black photo, you can't see it. Just about make it out, but they basically switched to the inside of the door panel on the TR3As, and it was a cord basically. So very different to the TR2 and TR3, so bear that in mind. So you get a pair of those fully sewn, ready to be effectively attached to the door panels using your original fixing elements of things. Now onto the door panels. Door panels are hardboard. They're 2.55mm hardboard, marine and automotive based plywood, hardboard, not plywood. A lot of people will go down the plywood route. Hardboard, the hardboard we supply is much more suitable for these cars. We've used the same stuff for decades now. We get it specially imported from a company that's been making it for over 100 years, relative to the marine and to the automotive industry. So it's a very specific thickness. It's not the sort of stuff you can go down to your local DIY store and get. Well, certainly not the spec that we supply, so just bear that in mind. So it's 2.55mm thickness hardboard, marine and automotive base, so it's water resistant. It's not waterproof, but it's a hell of a lot better than what they originally used. In fact, I think the door panels on the original TR2s were actually a millboard material, which warped out of shape terribly, but this is much better stuff. And we've been doing these same kits for 50 years using the same materials. We know that our materials stand the test of time, so just bear that in mind. They're all cut on our in-house CNC machine. They have pilot holes for that's all the sort of side screen mount brackets there. And the latch element there at the back there for the door pull section there. They have the pockets, which are millboard, pre-shaped and also actually attached on. So they come literally ready to go into the car. And obviously I've touched on the actual door pocket material. So we've done these in moquette because this is leather and it's a very premium material, so ties in nicely. But generally for, say, a vinyl kit, we'll be doing it in the same vinyl as the outside material. We can also flock them as well, but generally these days most people go for either moquette if they're upgrading, or vinyl for the standard kits there, as flocking can wear off fairly easily, should we say. Yes, you get a pair of those door panels. It's worth noting as well on the door pockets that the TR2 and TR3 door pockets were identical to one another, but they did differ to the 3A. These are literally fully enclosed, whereas the 3As kind of ended there and it actually had a bit of a gap there at the top. With regard to the door panels themselves as well, they are again identical between the TR2 and TR3s, easily done because they have the sort of rectangle hole, whereas the 3As reverted to a kidney shaped hole. So this is the TR2 and TR3 spec, whereas the 3As, I'm not going to get a decent view, am I? Ish. See some of my other videos. The 3As, it was a lot more kidney shaped, the hole. Now it's worth noting on the very early TR2s, they actually had an oval hole. We do have the template for that as well, but ludicrously rare. We've actually had the pleasure of working on the first 3 TR2s off the production line. So we did work on the, I'm going to get this name wrong, but Chewbacca, Star Wars, prototypes that got the land speed record. So we worked on that with Protec Engineering. Then we've also contributed kits to the TS1 and the TS2 respectively as well, so very honoured to have worked on those cars there. So yeah, we've got a lot of the kind of original patterns and tooling for a lot of these bits and bobs, and we're aware of the oval shaped hole, so we can offer that if you want, but very, very rare before they switch to this square or rectangular hole here. So that's the door panels themselves, obviously trimmed all the way around. It's also worth noting as well, they do not have any piping on the door panels. The TR3As had piping going across this top curved edge here, but the TR2 and TR3s did not. So we do that to original specification. Moving further back, let's take the book with me. We had the B-post quarter panels, or wheel arch panels as some people refer to them. So these are obviously the parts that sit directly behind the door panel and go up over the wheel arch well effectively, so they're there mostly blocked out of sight. But again, they are done out of the hardboard material, cut in-house on our in-house CNC. They have pilot holes for various elements of the hood frame, etc. Trimmed all the way around, and again the TR2s and TR3s, the quarter panels are identical, but the 3As were different. They were a bit shorter and stumpier here on the 3As, but the TR2s and 3s were longer in that area there. Trimmed all the way around, no piping on these at all, but again the TR3A did have piping on that sort of edge there, so just bear that in mind, but the TR2s and TR3s did not. We also supply a piece of pre-cut material which we just loosely staple to the back of the panel. That can be used to cover up a bit of bodywork that gets exposed at the very bottom of the quarter panel. Wasn't original, but we've done it for years. We like to, should we say, oversupply with some of our kits, and it gives you the option to tidy things up if you want in that area there. It's worth noting as well just how neat and tidy our trimming is. You will not find better trimmed panels anywhere on planet Earth when it comes to these cars. That's what we're known for globally, in terms of our quality and workmanship, and not just our accuracy to fit and also the quality of the raw materials, but how we produce our products has been pristine throughout our almost 5 decades of making these kits. So you get a pair of those as well. Then you have obviously the wheel arch covers. So the wheel arch covers are pre-sewn. They have piping. We use leather cloth for our piping where colours allow, which is about 80 or 90% of our colours are available in the leather cloth. Leather cloth is the original material used during this era of production, not to be confused with vinyl, which a lot of other companies use as a shortcut because they can't be bothered to stock the the colour twice, one in leather cloth, one in vinyl. So a lot of people use vinyl for their piping, which is nowhere near as suitable as leather cloth. Do see the blog handbook post as well as YouTube videos going into details of that. But essentially, leather cloth and vinyl have different backings to them. Vinyl can snag quite easily when it's wrapped over such a tight piece like piping, whereas leather cloth is very robust. If you kind of scratch on it, no scuffs or marks, whereas vinyl, you would start picking away at the top layer of it. We get this stuff specially made. It has all pre-slits on it. Look at that. Bend it really tightly round and you barely get any wrinkles in them whatsoever on a 180 degree, which is extremely rare for piping. But if you get it made properly, then that is the result. So you get a pair of wheel arch covers. They are slightly handed. Triangles indicate right hand on those sorts of bits, but you can see that's those pieces there. So they go kind of on that slanted rear shelf section down towards the floor there. So you get a pair of wheel arches fully sewn with piping. It's worth noting on the TR2s that piping was the same colour as the main trim, whereas on the TR3s they switched to white piping. Good example here, there's a TR2 with same colour, TR3 white piping. But apart from that, they are identical, the wheel arch covers. And then finally, you get a rear bulkhead panel. Now the rear bulkhead panel is unique to the TR2. The TR2 obviously had a larger fuel tank, I believe, at the back of the car, and so it's quite a sort of bulbous panel. It's a millwall panel, cut on our in-house CNC machine. It gets creased in the middle there, as well as on the bottom edge there. So the bottom edge kind of sits on the lip of that bottom piece down at the bottom there. It has a cutaway just down here, which I believe lets the wiring loom go into the boot trunk area of the car. And then you get this metal bracket onto the back here, which is, you get flex in it, so it allows you to bend it to the shape of the fuel tank effectively. But the metal bracket keeps the shape of it, but then you have this piece at the top here, which then coordinates with how the tonneau capping is fitted. There's a special fixing which intertwined with that one there. If you need any guidance on that, let me know. I've got a couple of photos. But trimmed all the way around and then roughly bent to the shape that you need. But bear in mind, there is flex and play in that. So, of course, when you're fitting it to the car, you'll almost certainly have to warp it to the shape of your car. So that is the rear bulkhead panel. I think I've covered everything apart from fixings. So we offer trim panel fixing kit sold separately to the trim panels. Effectively consists of a load of screws and washers, but they are the posi type screws. Is that going to focus? Which is what we do recommend for this era. It's not just your standard screws and washers from your local DIY store. They are the posi type there, which is exactly what you want to be using for this era of restoration there. So they are sold separately to the trim panel kits. I believe I covered my bases. So yeah, just a bit of a brief overview. 3-tier option on materials. You've got vinyl at one end, full leather at the other end, and then vinyl plus 7-piece leather in the middle. In terms of factory spec original, quite a few cars left with vinyl, although it's actually strictly speaking vinyled leather cloth, which we can offer if you want, but most people go to vinyl. So quite a few left with that option from the factory, but the majority did leave with the vinyl plus 7-piece leather kit there. This is the upgrade kit, which is the full leather kit. Then obviously colours change. You can obviously go outside the scope of original colours if you want to. We can supply these parts individually if you want, but it does work out more economical to buy them as a kit. With regard to the cappings, we supply obviously the material to redo your original ones. If you want to send us your original ones and they are reusable, we can of course trim them up, so do contact us for more details on that. Alternatively, if your cappings are missing or they're just not that good, then we can supply you with aftermarket ones, either in their raw form like this or fully trimmed up. Do check out the videos at the end of this one to go into details on that. Sorry, back to materials. It's worth noting as well, on the heritage certificates, often when they said leather for the heritage certificate, it meant vinyl plus 7-piece leather. So just bear that in mind. It didn't necessarily mean that actually they went for full leather. Generally, full leather would have been an option, special order option for, say, diplomats and things like that in foreign countries. They often got full leather kits in their cars, but generally speaking, if it says leather on the heritage certificate, then it means vinyl plus 7-piece leather. It's also worth noting that a lot of other suppliers out there in the industry confusingly refer to it as leather when actually the majority of the kit is vinyl. So just bear that in mind. We like to be a bit more transparent with it in terms of making sure that you're actually aware of what you're getting. So yeah, always be mindful of that when you're comparing apples with apples. That said, price is one of the oddest metrics, I would say, to compare suppliers for interior trim. You've got to think about, one, the quality of the raw material to start with, and then two, just the knowledge base, experience, accuracy of original templates and how the parts are reproduced, and reputation and things like that. We've been doing these same cars for 50 years, day in, day out. There's not much we don't know about them. And we've worked with some of the most esteemed restorers in the world on various kits over the last 50 years. And so we are well placed to make sure that you are getting the best kit in the world for your restoration. So just bear that in mind. Again, worth checking out several web pages on our website and blog handbook pages. It's the reason I've set this YouTube channel up, is to showcase our goods, and I believe again we're the only company in the world that bother doing it, and I think that speaks volumes. So yeah, I think I've covered my bases. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember to like, subscribe and share with other classic car enthusiasts. Of course, check out the other videos at the end of this one for related TR2 items that you may wish to consider, and be sure to tune in next time. Thanks, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.